Okay, the feature article. I'm going to walk you through what it is and start going through what you're going to be doing for this the next week or two, week and a half, whatever it is. Go down here. What I added, what's here is sort of a summary of what you're going to be doing for this unit. First, you're going to analyze what makes a feature article, and I'll show you that stuff in a second. You know what it is, and the different components of it. Then you're going to read an example in Perusall and analyze it using a worksheet that I'll show you in a second. And then back on Perusall, you're going to post at the very bottom what you discovered by using that worksheet. You do not have to post the worksheet. The worksheet is just to help you kind of get your ideas together and figure out what's in that article and if it follows this little model. Okay? Then you're going to decide what to write. There's some questions in this overview and roadmap page that I'll show you in a second. And then post the answers to them onto OpenLab so I can give you some feedback on it if you want it. I mean, some people already know what they want to write about, and that's fine, that's cool. Answering the questions sometimes will give you a different angle on your beat, sort of a different way of thinking about what you already want to write about. Like it could get you wound up about something. I'll show you in a second. Then the next thing you're going to do is post on Padlet what you really want to write about. You kind of narrowed it down to this thing and then put a picture with it because pictures are fun. Then you're going to create a pitch, and I'll show you how to do that in just a second. It's in this overview and roadmap page, and then post the pitch up to OpenLab. Again, I'll be giving you feedback, and then as I'm doing that, you'll do your research to sort of expand your own knowledge, what you already have and what you already know about that topic. And it could be, you do not have to go to the library, you don't have to use peer-reviewed articles, any of that kind of stuff. You can if you want to, but not necessary. Had a guy do a thing on black holes, and he did go to the library and he found an article in one of the science journals that he used. It was good background information. The rest of it came from other sources, but he used one. But you don't have to. Some of the best research that you can do, and when we do this in the regular term, I ask people or make people do what we call field research, which is going out and interviewing somebody, going walk someplace, take a bunch of pictures. We had a student this last term who did a survey, and she used a Google form and she created this survey and got a whole bunch of really good responses, and it was absolutely fascinating. You probably don't have time to do that, but it's certainly something you can do. It's that kind of field research that you can do. So you do a little research to back up what you already know. Right? You're just increasing your own knowledge. And then do a couple of short annotations out of the sources that you find, just 2 of them. It's not the big long thing that you did in the reflective annotated bibliography. No. There's a shorter version of it, and I'll show it to you. It's in that overview and roadmap page. And then you put in the Google Drive, there's a folder that says Unit 2, and inside that folder you create one with your own name on it, and inside that you can put these 2 annotations. It's also the place you're going to be putting the draft of your feature article, right? So you kind of create your own little folder within the class folder for Unit 2. Then you write your draft. So that's what we're doing. So let me go through this stuff. What makes it? This stuff is all on the class. We go to the class resources page, which is right here. Okay. Here's this overview and roadmap, which is right here. And this is. I didn't write it for this term. I've had it for a little while, and so it's not quite in the order that I just wrote. I just went over, but it does have all the information on it. So here are the questions that you'll be asking that you'll post up in that first OpenLab post. What I know a lot about, what I'm passionate about. This will help you kind of focus down on what you want to write about. The second thing is targeting your audience. If you have got a publication that you know about that you want to write for, it's not a bad idea to ask these questions of it, to go over and look at that thing. Like PC Gamer magazine feature articles are different from the reviews, right? So what does a feature article look like in PC Gamer? What does a feature article look like in the New York Times? Okay, what's the tone, diction, that kind of stuff. So it's a good thing to do. If I can make my thing back up. There we go. All right, so targeting your audience, getting to know about your publication. This is the pitch. Okay, a pitch is something that it's short. It can no more than 500 words. It can be shorter than that. But it's got usually 3 to 4 paragraphs. It's got a title, the paragraph which has got a hook. Now, this may or may not be the one you'll use in the article that you write, but it's just a way to start thinking about this as something that is not an academic research essay. What is going to catch my attention, a reader's attention? Funny, straightforward, powerful, whatever you want to do. Put the hook in there. A little bit more discussion about the problem, maybe why it will appeal to that particular audience, that particular publication, why you're the best person to write this, and what sources you might, go to get more information. Now, this is a silly one that I wrote about climate change and guacamole, but climate change means certain foods may completely disappear. I mean things like avocados and tomatoes. So much for guacamole. But just as there are ways to address climate change on a global scale, there are things we can do as urban gardeners to deal with food shortages. And my idea was that this would go to a gardening magazine or an upscale publication for people who would be urban gardeners. Right? So that's the hook. Here's the problem. We know what's going on. Food scarcity is a very real possibility. Audience appeal to your upscale readers because they're interested in climate change. And I want to give them some more information, some more background on what they can do to help. And then why I'm the best person to write this. My family started growing herbs in our front window. Blah, blah, blah. I've got to gather data from science sources as well as talk to some urban farmers. And tell the story of my own family's window garden, which actually is when I wrote this, is what I used as my hook. I started telling a story about the battle of the thyme, which is an herb, which I'm not going to go into, but that was what I used to frame the whole thing, right? So this would be your pitch. Here's more about how to do research, which you already know, that KWL Plus, which is right down here somewhere. This is, if you didn't use this in 1101, it's a really good tool for coming up with questions to go research. You write down everything you know about the topic for 5 minutes and just stop. And then for another 5 minutes, you start asking questions. Who, what, when, where, why, and how. Questions about the topic. Who knows something about this? When did this start? Where do I go get the information? Where did it happen? Those kinds of questions. Do a few minutes of initial research, and then spend and you're setting your timer for all this stuff. You're not going through the whole thing. It's not open-ended. It's timed. Because that way, A, you get it done, and B, you don't make yourself crazy. Do, about 5 minutes about what you got from this stuff, and then start writing some more questions that you still want to go look up. So it's a really, 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 really good tool. I use this all the time. When I was a freelance writer, I did this kind of thing a lot. I didn't know that's what it was, but because it's been a few years, but this is exactly what I did. But when I did the research, it wasn't online because we didn't have that. Right? So there's that. So there's research. Did I finish this thing? Okay. Okay. This is what you do for the 2 short annotations, and I mean short. 150 words. We're not talking anything really long, but just write these up. Do 2 of them. Do 2 sources, 1 for each source, and then you're going to put these in the Google Drive, in your folder in the Google Drive, in your Unit 2 folder. Bibliographic information, like the URL, a 1-sentence summary of the source, what was the point of it, what in particular stood out to you, a commentary on why the source is useful for your article. I think it's something that we don't do in the reflective annotated bibliography in 1101 because it doesn't matter. But for us, it's really important because is this going to help me write my article or not? Right. So you need to comment on whether this source is going to be useful. And then a few sentences about the author's craft. How are they getting their message across? You may steal an idea from here and there. Don't say I said that. And at least one pertinent quote. Something that might be able to use in your own article. So these are the 2 very short bibliographic annotations that you're going to create from 2 of the sources that you find up, right? So here's the KWL game again. So that's that. That's what's on there, right? So that's the overview and roadmap. So everything you need with the questions and stuff is going to be on there. Know your publication. Now, what the heck is a nut graph? And here's structuring the article, structuring the thing. Engaging opening. That story about somebody, a question, a provocative idea. There's a lot of ways to open an article, and you'll see some. The middle is much, and then research, a little bit of research, and then the nut graph. And the ending, and as much story and research as you want, and images, graphs, tables, charts. The ending, the classic way to end a feature story is to go back to the original. If you started with a story about somebody, is to go back to that person's story and finish it. Okay, that's what I was taught in journalism school. That's how you did features. You started off with a story about somebody, you kind of went off on interesting roads, and then you kind of came back to them at the end and finished up their story. You can also put advice and tips at the end. You can make a final comment or a quote from somebody, or you can end with a call to action. Let's go do something about this. Right? So this is how you structure the article. And let me show you an example of a feature. This is from early, and this is from January, I believe it's January 2020, about the coronavirus, before we knew what was going on, right? And it starts with a story about this person who was sick and sought help at a hospital in Wuhan. And more about him, he said he was told he had a chest infection. They sent him home. He got sicker, went to 3 more hospitals. No. And then it says, like many of the thousands of Chinese patients who are concerned about the new coronavirus, Mr. Zhao is scrambling to get help from a healthcare system, straining to serve even the basic needs of patients. It's like kicking a ball from here to there, said his wife. And here's some interesting maps tracking the spread. And then a little bit more about him, and then another paragraph about the quality of Chinese healthcare. This was 2 years ago. Right? So it starts off with, here's your hook. It's about him. A little bit of information and research, and then the nut graph. You can argue this is the nut graph because it says, okay, we're going to be talking about Chinese patients, the new coronavirus, and about the healthcare system. So this gives us an insight into what's coming. It has a little bit more here, but this is kind of getting back into the research part of it. Right? So there's lots of research, lots of quotes. You don't see anything from the writer. You can, but you don't here. But we go on down, more pictures, more quotes, more thumb up. And at the very end, we go back to Mr. Zhao, the person we started with, and talk about where he is, that he's still sick, and that there's no medicine for it so far. And so that's sort of a classic, really news hooky kind of feature article. My son-in-law did one about a dancer named Latasha Barnes, and started with, she is a sort of an amazing person. And if I can find it, I'll show you that one. Latasha Barnes. There it is. This is a feature article my son-in-law wrote about this dancer, right? About her. And how he started. If you want to understand the connections between jazz dance and its progeny, you could read a book or take a course, but how much more efficient and fun just to watch Latasha Barnes do her thing. And then who she is. So that's it's a way to hook us in. A little more about her. Right, so this is what we're going to learn. A bridge between the worlds that seldom intersect. Okay. So the whole article is a story about her. Features can be that way too. Sorry, he obviously did some research. Hold on a second. I'll be right back. Okay, my seasonal allergies are kicking up. Let me get through this video, and then I'll stop and I'll do more. But these are a couple of examples of feature articles, different kinds. This one is very newsy. This one is very much a portrait of a person, almost in a way. So that's what nut graphs are. That's how these feature articles work. And what you're going to be doing is you're going to be analyzing. You're going to go to, there are 4 of them in Perusall. You pick one, don't have to do all 4 of them, and go read it. You don't have to annotate it if you don't want to. But then you go, there's a link on the page right here, right, worksheet, and it looks like this. It's also in the Google Drive. Now, you do not have to post this worksheet. I do in the regular term, but we don't have time. Just use this to help you analyze that article, whichever one you choose. And you can take this information, what you learn, Where do you think the nut graph is? What is it? How is this article structured? And then you go back to the end of the article, go way down to the very bottom, and for some reason it's not there. Supposedly it's not working. It's giving me a hard time this afternoon. There it is. I put a prompt here at the end. Okay, reply to this loudspeaker by putting your analysis to the mentor text using the worksheet. All right. This one doesn't need to be there. I'll take that out. But that's what you're going to do with each one of these 4 articles. This one is about, the Sports Illustrated one is about, it's like a Bill of Rights for NCAA athletes that Cory Booker wrote. This one, about the science news, is about how coronavirus may be making us stupid. That's not what it says. Maybe may scramble our brains. Okay, same thing. That's that one. So that's a science one. This one from Fox is about how we lost our privacy when the pandemic hit. And then the 4th one is a look at the state of marriage. All right? So you pick one of these 4, you go do your thing, use this, and then you come back and you put your analysis at the very bottom of it. And that's how we analyze these. Now I'm going to stop again, and when I come back, I'll talk about what we do next after we look at these, after we analyze them. What are we going to be doing after that? So I'll be right back.